Well, hello, boys and girls. Here we are again at the Business Badassery podcast. How you doing, Billy?
Doing pretty good, Caleb. What's going on with you?
I'm looking at my lighting, and I noticed that it exacerbates the bags under my eyes. So I need to figure out like makeup that gets rid of the bags in your eyes. Look at my YouTube thumbnails, and I'm like, what are those bags under my eyes? And I get 8.5 hours of sleep. This is all genetics and my white skin. It's not because I don't get sleep. I get plenty of sleep. I don't understand it. I don't get it.
I use makeup.
See, we don't have us manly men. Yeah, see, us manly men, such as we do not get the option of wearing makeup. But although you can for videos, at some point I was thinking about using powder because if I sweat a little bit, you could powder your face. There's powder you could put on for videos, perhaps. When I do the stand-up videos, like for the courses, they would actually, there was a makeup chick there who would powder my face.
Nice.
That's great. It's awesome.
I've never gone for anything that fancy and luxurious before. I just slap something on and hope it works.
Well, that's what I did today. I'm wearing my fancy t-shirt. I'm wearing this is my $22 t-shirt instead of my usual $7 t-shirts.
Ooh,
so I'm classing
really
it up
moving
today.
Up.
Yeah.
Snazzy.
I know that. Well, we talked about that last time, didn't we? About how we look when we leave the house, and people don't know, they don't realize certain things about us. Yeah.
True. Yeah, we just don't prioritize flash.
Right.
In that way.
What I was thinking about talking today, and as you guys notice, we don't really we don't hone hard on a topic. We kind of meander, but we keep this on the topic of business, specifically location dependent businesses. And that is the topic of creativity and how you have to, this is a dated saying, but looking outside the box. I have noticed, I don't know if you've seen this, but I have seen a lot of resistance with people where when you talk about not just starting a business, it's more about location independence. I get a lot of resistance from people who have no creativity. And what I mean is, more specifically, I will say things like, if you do something in a specific industry, there are ways to do that thing or variations of that thing in a location independent fashion. And I will get comments from, these aren't really people in the hardcore audience. These are usually people from the outside looking in, but things like, it's really hard to position a person for an X-ray if you're not in the same building or not in the same country. Or, oh yeah, right, I'm going to fix someone's electrical problems in their house remotely. And I'm sitting there going, these are people who are either making excuses, or maybe that's a big part of it, or these are people who have zero creativity, zero think outside the box structures in their head, where it's, I must do exactly what I'm doing precisely and exactly with no changes whatsoever for the rest of my life, and it doesn't matter. And if anyone brings up anything remotely location dependent, then no, I have to do exactly what I'm doing, and I'm not even going to consider the options of looking at other ways I can do this to make me more free. Because as I've said a billion times in my content, if you are stuck, and that's the word, if you are stuck in the city and where you live, because you have to be there. Now, if you're there because you choose to be there, that's different. But if you're stuck there because you have to make money there, you're not free. You're not mobile. There's a lot of things you're giving up in your life. And as I talk about a billion times, we're going into a very dark time in the world over the next few decades. And it is better to have mobility than to not have it. Even if you tell me you love where you live right now, right this second. And that's what I've seen. I don't know if you've seen anything like that. Although you don't focus, you're location independent like I am, but you don't focus on that hard like I do. Or do you? Maybe I should.
I don't. Well, location independent means something different to me than it does to you.
Yeah.
So for you, it means moving globally and planting flags in different places. For me, what that means is that I can work from wherever I happen to be. And I take advantage of by taking small trips or planning so that I never work Thursday, Friday, for example. So that I can go and hang out with my friends, take my dogs on trips, do whatever I want. And to me, that's location independence. So if I want to work with my laptop in the garage so I can enjoy the scenery and watch the birds and hang out with my dogs, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
But it's not just your garage. You can go anywhere. You can go to any
Anywhere,
city,
anywhere.
in or outside the United. You're not a big international person like I am, but you could go to any. You've done this. You go to any city in the United States, whenever you want, for any reason you want.
Yeah.
And like you said, if you have your laptop, you can still work and maintain your life.
I don't even need my laptop in many cases, as long as I have my phone.
Yeah. I've thought about that too. And if I could just, because I probably could, I could probably just have my phone. That's not, I have two phones.
You just like spreadsheets too much. I don't know if you could survive as an individual.
I know that. You know what? For this fitness thing I'm doing, they have me on this big giant spreadsheet that I got to log all my food and log all my fitness and all my workouts and all that crap. And they literally say, don't even use your phone. It's not going to work. It just won't work. You're going to have to use a desktop PC or, some kind of laptop or something. And I tried my phone once, like, yeah, they're right. You just can't. But if I gave that, but that's an emotional thing. If I gave that up or gave portions of that up, I could do everything on this phone. I could. Mm-hmm. Worst case scenario, I could get like one of those I have one over there, a Bluetooth keyboard, and just sit the phone on a little thing like some people do. I could do that. So I didn't think about that. But you just described, you said location dependence means something different to you than it is to me, which is true. But you just described freedom.
Exactly. And that's
it's just a different version of freedom.
Mm-hmm. That's the underlying motive. And the only reason I'm not internationally traveled is because I'm a single woman who doesn't have much experience with that. And to me, it's frightening. The world just isn't as safe for females. That's a reality. So I haven't taken advantage of that as much as I'd like to yet, but it's in the works.
But you have the option.
But I can. Right. And this spring was a good example. Caleb, I bought a house and had the entire thing renovated, like ripped out all the ceilings, floors, everything.
I know.
It was a bitch. In fact, we just got the last flooring in last night. But the thing that I did was I took my dogs and rented some beautiful different Airbnbs along Lake Superior in Upper Michigan.
That's cool.
So I could go hiking for a few hours every day, hit cool restaurants, go rock picking, just whatever I wanted, and take
for like a few days at a time. How long was your longest stay? Like a week?
10 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just pick up and go.
Yeah. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this. You probably remember this, but maybe it didn't bother you as much as it bothered me. I remember having a normal corporate job where I would envy business owners who could just leave at like 2 p.m. because they wanted to go see their kids, have a meeting with their teacher or something, and they would just go. They wouldn't have to ask permission to go anywhere. Matter of fact, I've mentioned this a long time ago. A billion years ago in the 90s, when I still had a job. My last job was at Nike corporate headquarters in Beaverton, Oregon. And I read Donald Trump's book back then, which was Art of the Deal. And I read it. And the thing that I envied the most about him was not that he had a lot of money. It wasn't that at all. It was, he talked about in his schedule how he had I think that was it. He had a meeting at the school at 1:30. So he just went to the meeting. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there in my little Nike cubicle reading this book going, I couldn't do that. If I wanted to do that, I'd have to schedule it 2-3 weeks out. I'd have to check with my boss. I'd have to check with everyone else on the team to make sure there was coverage and all that bullshit. And then maybe they'd say yes and maybe they'd say no. So I have to ask. It's like my first job, I know all over the place, but my first job, I had to put up a little flag and get permission to go to the bathroom because we had to man the phones.
Oh my God.
It was like being in kindergarten. So having a corporate job is an extension of being in kindergarten because you have to ask permission for basic shit.
Yes. And your lunch is at a prescribed time.
Yeah.
Your start time has no correlation to when you're productive. That was my biggest pet peeve.
Yeah.
I'm most productive between 6 and 9 a.m. And in the winter, it's even earlier in the morning. That is when my brain is rocking. It's ready to fucking fly. I'm revved up, full of energy, but work doesn't start till 9. And then I need to take an hour-long lunch break. I don't want a freaking hour-long lunch. I want to work through my lunch and get the hell out of here.
Right. That was my thing too. Why am I taking an hour for lunch? Can I just work through lunch and take off an hour early? No, Caleb, you can't do that. Or the opposite is if you're not a morning person, because I'm not. I'm not bad in the morning, but I'm not great in the morning. But I had to be at work by 8 most days. Yeah, was that right? Yeah, to be at work by 8. And with traffic and everything, and getting ready, I had to wake up at 6. I didn't want to wake up at 6. I'm driving my car half asleep, going to work. And I'm like, this is dumb. Why do I have to go to work at 8 when it's an office type job and there's no actual logistical reason why I have to physically be in the office at 8? Do you know why? Do you know why we have the 8 to 5 workday? There's a reason. You know why we have that?
Isn't it related to Henry Ford? Enlighten me, but I thought it was Henry Ford.
Well, yes, that was the next level to it. The main reason we have to get up so early is because of farmers. Prior to Henry Ford, the workday began when the sun went up, and people just got used to this. Yes, Henry Ford kind of formalized that. I don't remember the story about that. I read that. He
did, with like making the breaking the day down into 3 segments.
Yes,
sleep, family, and work.
That's correct. The segments is Henry Ford. But why don't people go I used to ask my dad when I was a kid, why do people go to work? Why are you going to get up at 6 a.m. to go to work? Why don't you get up at like 10 if you want to, or noon? Why do you have to wake up so early? He didn't have an answer. So I looked up the answer later, and it's because of farmers. People said when we were farmers, it used to be 98% of us were farmers and 2% were, office workers. Now it's the other way around. Mm-hmm. But we didn't switch that part. We're still operating on farmers' hours. Well, it's the sun is up. You better get to work. But I work in an office, and you do coding or whatever. What fuck difference does it make what time you're at the office? It's so stupid. Even if you're a remote worker, by the way, because some guys are like, well, I have a location independent job. Yeah, I have a brother like this. He has a location independent job, so he tries to go do shit during the day, but he has to bring his phone and bring his laptop, and he'll be in the middle of doing something, and oh shit, he'll have to stop and go do it again. He's constantly worried that he'll get caught by not doing what he's supposed to be doing. It's a mess.
I have multiple friends that are in that same boat, and there's no freedom about that. You don't have a commute. That's the only part of the grind that's missing, is you don't have to drive, but you're still in preschool.
They still have to keep the stupid hours. Most remote workers I know, matter of fact, maybe all of them, have to keep 8 to 5 or 9 to 6. They have to keep a shift. They have to keep hours, and their gods at work, their bosses expect them to be working, and there's systems in place to make sure that they're actually working at the computer doing things. It's not like you and I can work whenever the hell we want from wherever we want in the world, because we didn't make a bunch of excuses about, well, I can't do that. No, I can't do that remotely, or I can't start a business doing that. Yes, you can.
You most
just have to be a little flexible and creative.
Exactly. I own a company, Caleb, that provides services to real estate agents, such as measuring properties to a certain very specific set of guidelines. We have cleaning teams, et cetera. I've never cleaned a house in my life. I pay someone to clean my house because I freaking hate cleaning. There's no point in me spending my time that way if I can pay someone $20 an hour.
Correct.
I really, really struggle with that notion that you have to be there, you have to be hands-on. Because even if you have a business that provides a hands-on physical service in a location, you don't have to be tied to it. That's why you build a staff. So even if your livelihood depends on location dependence, it doesn't mean you need to.
So let me ask you a hard question. I know what my answer to this is. So you get a guy who says, let me think of some examples or even an example. I'm a bricklayer. I have a bricklaying business. Okay. I lay bricks, I make walls and shit. How can I be location independent? What is your answer? Because I know mine is, but what's yours?
Mine would be to train other bricklayers, or to create like a consortium of bricklayers, and never to do hands-on work unless you feel like it.
Right. That's the answer, guys. That's really that simple. Train other bricklayers, and then get in a position where you manage the other bricklayers, and then you have to physically be there. How can I manage them if I'm not there? There's many ways to do that. In the tech industry, I used to coordinate hands-on contractors who go on site in multiple sites all over the country, and they would just be my hands. And they would just do a certain thing. They know how to do it. If they had a question, they'd call me or text me or whatever, and I walk them through it. And that was it. They charged me an hourly rate, and I was done. So I could perform services without having to physically be there. Mm-hmm. It's so stupid. Now, then I'm going to consider that like level 1, the level 1 answer. The level 2, which would work. The level 2 answer, but this requires more creative thinking and more flexibility. And some guys won't want to do this. But instead of being a bricklayer and training other bricklayers and managing bricklayers, which would work. And I would probably do that depending on what I was doing. Instead, I would revamp my brain to offer informational services to other bricklayers. So likely in your business, you're doing something in your business. This is Jay Abraham stuff. You're doing something in your business that is on the higher end of your industry. Either you're making more money, or maybe you're not making more money. Maybe you're more profitable, or maybe you're more efficient in a certain procedure, something. You're doing something of benefit to other bricklayers. So could you sell an information product or a consulting service or a coaching service or something like that that can be delivered remotely to other bricklayers? Now you're already niched, because we keep talking about niche. You're already niche. You're already in a niche. So could you just train them or work with them? And now you don't do any bricklaying at all, or even better, you do both. Because I've seen guys do this, like jewelers and stuff. You do what Billy just said, because that's right. You set up a system where you have bricklayers working under you and you manage them. You have that income spinning off. Then you pick that up and you go consult or coach or courses or whatever, some kind of service with other bricklayers, teaching them how to do what you just did. And now you have two businesses and two income streams. It's even better.
Yeah, we love multiple revenue streams.
Yeah. And often you'll make more money on the second one, training other bricklayers than you will on your own bricklaying business.
You will. And the reason for that is that most entrepreneurs are very, very good at their specialty and have no idea how to run a business. Anytime you can help other people step into entrepreneurship, that the world has become a very open place with many opportunities for you.
Yeah,
if you're good at the business aspect of things, if your specialty, if you're really good at doing a specific herringbone pattern, because you're going to make a dome on some church out of bricks, the story's a little bit different, right? That's going to be harder knowledge to pass on. You're not going to help entrepreneurs, but perhaps then writing a course, creating that sort of content that people keep coming back to as a learning resource, exactly as Caleb has mentioned.
Because would you agree that most business owners are technicians?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And in fact, I've had to fire some clients because I just can't stand working with someone that has no business sense at all.
And
they can have successful businesses with 20 staff members. It still doesn't mean they know what they're doing or have a willingness to learn or to think outside of the box. Right. You know, they're stuck in their stasis, and it's a nightmare.
Oh, I work with business owners who were technicians who had more than 20 employees.
Yeah. And
these are the guys who are working 100-hour weeks or whatever, stressed the hell out, constant problems, touchy about everything. They have to do it themselves. They're terrible at outsourcing because they're technicians running a company, not a business owner, not an entrepreneur running a business. And that reminds me of E-Myth. So E-Myth, Michael Gerber, he talks about there's three personalities in a business owner. There's the technician, there's the manager, and there's the entrepreneur. And most business owners never get past technician. Exactly. I'm an architect, so I'm going to start a business. I'm a bricklayer. I'm a coder, so now I'm going to start a business doing coding. And it's just one notch less bad than having a job. They talk about having a job you own. You own a job instead of, you still have a job now. You own the job instead of you working for the job.
Which just essentially means that you're wearing more hats and taking more risk, but offering yourself no more reward.
And working longer hours.
That's the thing. A lot of entrepreneurs still have this mindset from like the 50s that the more hours you put in the business, the more successful you'll be, the more serious you are, the more macho. Fuck that. It makes absolutely no sense to be thinking that way. If your business is taking over your life, reevaluate. You're doing something very wrong.
Yeah, long term. There are times where you might need to put in those hours, but that's not your whole life.
No, and it's usually a period of months, 6 to 12 months.
Correct.
Depending, exactly. 2 months, depending on what it is that you're offering.
Yeah, or worst case scenario, it's a year, but it's not the rest of your career. It's a year, and then you're done, and now you can back off, and now you can, it's so... Well,
and that's the build-up phase, though, right? We're talking about different things. There's maintaining and running a company that you've built, and then there's building the company. So in the build-up phase, you're always going to invest more time.
Correct.
But once you have created your basic systems, operating premise, and ethos, you should, a successful entrepreneur is able to step away and have that business run itself largely.
It's what you just said. The successful entrepreneur is the entrepreneur who can step away. So that's the shift I had to make about 15 years ago. So I thought the successful entrepreneur was the guy that made the 7-figure income. No, because there are guys at that income level, I know them, you know them, who are not happy and are fucking miserable and hate their lives. I'm exaggerating slightly, but you get my point.
But they're a slave to the grind.
They're slaves.
Absolutely.
They have to work. They have to put in that 60-hour week. Or one guy said, well, I have to, if not, what did he say? He said, if I took a vacation for longer than 4 days, I'd come home and my company would be a parking lot. Something like that. And I'm like, boy, is that bad. I had to make the shift of the successful entrepreneur is the guy who makes the good money and can do things like, and I still can't do this, but I'm a lot better than I used to be, can take like a month off or at least a week or two off. And when I say off, the mentors, the guys that I look up to, they can do this. One in particular, he will take on a regular basis, he'll take 10 days off. And when I say off, he won't check a single email. He won't make a single phone call. He will not take a single phone call from his office for 10 days. And the business runs just fine. He comes back, everything's fine. I'm like, oh, that's the successful entrepreneur. Right.
Yeah. We're a year and a half into this real estate services company. And we already have been at that point for about 6 months, where we hired a fantastic guy to run our ops for us, Muhammad, that I introduced you to the other day. Yeah. He runs all the ops. I don't do anything but have an executive.
Oh, he runs the ops for your real estate thing? Oh, no kidding.
He runs everything on the day-to-day basis.
So how many hours a week is that taking him? Or did he just get started?
No, he's been doing that about 6 months, a little bit more. And he's 20, 25 hours a week because we have a lot of systems in place, a lot of automations in place. And we really thought through the business before we launched it.
So I hope you guys are listening to what she's saying. So he runs the entire business part-time because of all the systems she has in place. So A, that could be you having a business that's 20 hours a week. B, even better, you can hire someone at 20 hours a week, and now you barely have to do any work at all.
It is largely, our goal for this business is that within the first 2 years, it becomes a passive revenue stream, and we're largely there already.
Right. Where you just check reports once a month or twice a month and you're done.
Yep. Or I'll go into real estate agencies or to conferences and explain what we do, pitch the business and introduce them, take a little treat. Exactly. I'm being the CEO, but I'm also having fun because it means I get to go to Whole Foods, which we don't have in my area. You know what I mean? I get to buy slightly pretentious food, have a good time, have a few good meals out. And basically I'm just going from meeting to meeting, talking to people, which is fun. That's the part of being a CEO that I like. That's easy. So that's largely what I do. I don't need to have my hands in the day-to-day, and I don't want to.
And you have the freedom to, so God, I hope you guys are listening. You're getting gold here. You have the freedom to take the bits and pieces of the work that you were doing and pull out just the bits and pieces that you like and focus 100% on those instead of having to do all this other crap, which most business owners and all employees have to do. They're forced to do this stuff, forced in quotes. They're forced to do the things they don't like. They either hate everything they're doing or they hate 80%. I think that's the statistic is that 80, the number in my head is 82. I don't know if
you're right. It was in the 80s.
Well, 82% of people hate their jobs or dislike their jobs, just like their work. It's not just employees. It's self-employed people too. It's everybody. 80% of people who work dislike their work. Either they hate it or they mildly dislike it. They don't like it. So
isn't that wild? Especially if you're an entrepreneur, that is only your.
Isn't that stupid? Then you have no excuse. Having a job's one thing. I didn't like having a job, but it was temporary and I got the fuck out. But yeah, if you have your own business and you still don't like it, because I've worked with numerous business owners. Not so much anymore. I've kind of straightened out what I do now, but over the course of the last 25 years, numerous business owners who hated their businesses and they hated their employees. I've had that. Have you had that? We work with people who hate their employees. My employees are stupid. They're idiots. They're liars. They're cheaters. They're your employees, motherfucker. You hired them. They're still there. What are you doing? Are you insane? I'll tell you a story about that in a second. Have you run into that? Because I
I've
have.
only run into, very rarely have I run into that because I curate the people I accept as clients. So if that's already
I do
their
that
company
now.
ethos, they're wasting my
Yeah.
time because I'm going to have to scrap everything and rebuild it. And I probably am not going to want to work with that owner's ego because it's going to get
Yeah.
in the way. So I will either fire them as clients or just not take them on if their attitude is that bad.
See,
Because
you started
you're never going to grow if your
right.
attitude is that negative, especially toward what you've built and the people you've installed. You have no chance.
No chance. You started doing that in your business career way before I did. I was more of a whore, and I said, if you pay me, I'll take you. I don't care. I don't care if you hate your life and hate your employees. And I can tell you several stories, but the one that sticks out in my mind is this is a long time ago, back before I used to curate like you do. Working with someone, and the owner was a woman, or was she the manager? Oh, there was an owner and a manager, and they both hated their employees. They both hated everybody. And so the manager said, I need you to come in at 6 a.m. or whatever, some early hour to do X, Y, and Z. I said, all right. And then I thought about it later. I said, well, I don't need to come in for this. I can just call up. I can do all this stuff remotely, call into the staff and have them do a few pieces, and that'll be it. And that'll save them, because this is back when I was very stupid and charged by the hour. Don't do this. But I was charging by the hour, and I had to charge a travel fee. I said, well, that way it'll save them money. It'll save me time. It'll save them money. Win-win. So I did that. And later in the day, this manager called me up. She was furious. And I had another conversation with the owner. It's a very similar conversation. She's like, I told you to come out here and do it yourself, not work with Sally and Bob and Jane on blah, 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 blah. And I explained. So I said, well, most of it is done remotely. I would have been out there literally for just a few minutes, and I would turn around and go back home, and I would have to charge all this money for a round trip and blah, blah, blah. It made no sense. So it made a lot more sense to have them just do blah, blah, blah. And she screamed, she raised her voice to me. She was upset. And she literally said, one of the sentences she said is, our employees are stupid. They're incompetent. They screw everything up constantly. You cannot ever again walk any of our employees through anything, literally anything. When we want you to do something, we expect you to come out, you and just you, and do it and then leave. We don't care if it takes 5 minutes. You got to charge us $1 billion. Now, she didn't say that part, but she kind of implied it. Although this is the same kind of client, and this happened later, who would complain about invoices. Those clients with those kind of attitudes are the ones who bitch about your pricing and bitch about your invoices and bitch about why'd you do this and why'd you do that. And that's, I remember this now. One of the reasons I did that is I knew from that client, they would say, why'd you drive out here and charge us $600 or whatever, just be here for 10 minutes. I know I would have gotten that complaint. It's another reason I did it. I'm like, God, I can't imagine working in a business. Just not only being on that team, being one of their employees, can you imagine? But owning a business like that, both.
There's no hope for you to grow in that company. And that's, I think, the secret that I brought to you and we've brought to many other people's is hiring what we call a unicorn. You find every person that you hire, or every person that I hired when I was embedded in your staff, Caleb, every single person I hired, my goal was for them to replace me. And not, did I think they would all rise to that? Absolutely not. Did I hope so? Yes. Did we keep providing opportunities for growth every step of the way? The one thing we didn't do is say you're not capable, or, Sally's never going to be able to do this. Because if Sally's never going to be able to grow, she has no place on our team.
And one thing you do that I don't do is that you will gently, or sometimes not so gently, push people on the team to do new things and to extend what they're doing, even if they're a little uncomfortable, nervous. You'll actually, no, you can do this, or you should do this. I don't do that at all. I'm like, all right, do that, and I got to get back to work. You're more of, you're doing this, you can do this, and you can do that, and I think you should do this, and you're very good at that, whereas I don't. And now the fact that you are saying you want them to replace you all kind of makes sense, the reason you're doing those things. I have that goal too, but it's in the back of my mind, not the front of my mind.
It's in the front of mind with every penny I spend, whether it's my client's money or my own. I need to know that we're going to get the best return on investment. The only way I can get that return is by investing a little bit of my time. And it's not a lot. We work on engagement, and I work on asking people what things they're interested in learning. or what other skills they can bring to the table or would like to try without a commitment to being pigeonholed into a certain role. And because we're able to teach entrepreneurs to have this more open mindset rather than, stuff saying this is your slot, you do this task forever. Your employees aren't going to be engaged with that. Your staff is not going to be engaged. They're going to be punching a clock, the same as you. So the way that we engage them and create that engagement right from the start is by accepting people's ideas and trying to push them to stretch their comfort zone. I don't ever want people to be truly uncomfortable, but I want them to seek some level of discomfort so that they have a place to grow and they can show us what they're capable of. And there are people who will never step up to the plate and will never show you what they can do. They're happy being in stasis. They're happy getting their paycheck and not growing, and that's fine. It's awesome to identify that. They become your workhorses, but you know that you need to replace those workhorses with unicorns. And the unicorns are the people that can step in like I did for Caleb, like Muhammad does for me, where we step in and handle the day-to-day ops so that the ownership team just never has to be bogged down with all of this nonsense. But if you are not curating that team, if you are not seeking to create engagement, you're never going to have people who step up and take on that leadership role for you.
Can you guys tell this is Billie's bailiwick? This is what she's good at. Can you tell by the way she's talking? So I know I'm going to get this question in the comments, or we are going to get this question in the comments. Well, how do you find good people? I have my answer, but your answer is much better. What is your answer to that question? How do I find good people? How do I do that?
So my answer to that is I have ADHD psychic abilities. I don't know. I ask, firstly, my interviews are never what you'd expect. We never sit down and go through a person's resume. I've already done that research. Nope, I've done that ahead of time.
Just so you guys know, Billie hires or has hired everyone that works, just about everybody works in my team. And I have no idea how she does it. I don't know what her process is because I don't care. So this is all news to me, but anyway, go ahead. So you don't look at a resume.
So I do. I mean, I read that when I'm curating my list of top contenders, but when my top contenders, I'm going through the interview process, I'm asking them questions like, and Caleb, why don't you answer this? You have just won the lottery. And what are you? No, let's scroll it back. You haven't won the lottery. I'm giving you $100,000 and a month vacation because you're my favorite employee. What do you do with that time?
How long is the vacation?
1 month, $100,000. What do you do?
Let me think a sec. I can tell you exactly what I do. Give me a second. So what I would do is the first thing I would do for the first week is I would clean up all. I'm assuming I'm an employee, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. I would take the first week, 5-6 days, and clean up all the stuff in my personal life that I didn't have time to because I'm working all the time, like the insurance and the rent. I'd clean all that up. And then the very next week, I hope you're not offended, Mrs. Olds, but what I would do is I would take some of that money, and once I'd probably pay off a hunk of debt. If I had any debt, I'd pay off of that. I would take at least $20,000 of that, and I would start a small business on the side, and I would do something probably online. And that would be the remainder of 3 weeks.
Essentially, that's the kind of answer I'm looking for. I want to know that somebody's going to take that time and do something productive with it. If they say to me, oh, I'm going to take my family, we're going to sit on a beach for the entire time, and I'm going to work on my tan. Well, fuck it. You're not going to work for me. You don't have that intrinsic desire. Mm-hmm. You're showing me that you don't have goals. Your goal is comfort. I don't want you to be comfortable. I want to know what you would really do to improve your life, or if you would improve your life. And
to be very honest, it sounds like bragging. Going on some kind of vacation didn't even enter my mind when I was thinking through my options. Mm-hmm. If I was an employee, you gave me $100,000, I have a month off. I'm sure I would take a weekend or two with my wife or girlfriend, whatever my scenario was, and relax a little bit. But no, I'd be back to doing something. So that didn't even enter my mind.
Same here. I would be adventuring. I would be going to Nepal and helping rebuild schools while I did a trek to Everest Base Camp, because to me, that's fun.
Right.
But that's, honestly, it's just understanding what motivates people and knowing that as employers, all we give people is money. That's it. That's nothing. In the grand scheme of things, we're not giving them freedom. We're not giving them happiness. We're giving them money, maybe benefits if we have a real staff rather than freelancers. But that's it. So we have to build engagement in different ways. And the way that I like to build engagement is by finding people with an entrepreneurial and driven spirit. They may not have all the skills in the world, but I can teach that. What I cannot teach is the mentality that you and I share, where we're always pushing ourselves, making ourselves uncomfortable, trying new things, and doing the unexpected.
This is why so many entrepreneurs and famous business gurus and things like that, well, they say things like, I would rather hire based on attitude than based on skill set or based on education or experience, because I can't teach attitude. That's exactly why they say that. I was going to ask you another question. Let me think if I remember it when you were talking, because I know people would ask this. Here's the question. Let's say you're hiring several different people, and at least one or two of these people are just pure admin office worker type people. And that's all you need them for. Do you still look for that entrepreneurial drive for people at that level as well, or no?
I do look for some sort of drive. Whether that is that they participate in stock car racing and they just think it's the coolest thing ever. And to me, I'm not into it. I don't care about it. But if it's someone that has a passion for something that they're devoting energy to, that's a better candidate than someone who says, well, I really just kind of like to hang out and play video games.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for people who are doers. It doesn't matter what the role is. It doesn't matter. We have people that you and I've worked with that are capped at a certain level. And that's okay, because they're still the foundation team. They're the workhorses who never let us down. Make sure that the other staff gets those routine tasks into us on time. So again, we're looking for doers and then applying that to what they're able to do within our business.
So do you look for the answer that you're looking for to that question? Do you raise the bar on that answer based on the job title? So let's say you're hiring a CEO versus you're hiring a part-time admin person. Do you expect a much higher quality of doer answer from the CEO than from the admin person? Or is it a black and white for you?
This is across the board for me.
Across the board for you.
I always need people who are willing to wear multiple hats, who understand those hats will always be shifting as they grow. And they will never say to me, that's not my job.
Right.
So the way to get away from that, the negative, it's not my job, that's not my responsibility, is by building that engagement, building that trust, giving opportunities. And then you have, even with your admin powerhouses who are going to run that company and do all the tedious things every day.
I heard a big company. I don't remember which one it was. I think it was FedEx, but I don't think it was FedEx. FedEx is in my head about this. Maybe it was a different company. And the employee policy of the company was, when you encounter a customer with a problem, you own that problem. You can never hand it off. You can hand it off to someone else. But if you do, you have to follow up and make sure that problem is fixed. You can't say that's not my job. You literally can't say that. And it doesn't matter what your job title is. You could be executive vice president of the region. And if you encounter a customer with an issue, that you now own that issue forever until the issue is solved.
I love that reason.
Oh my God, it's great. It's great.
That's exactly what you need.
Yeah, it's so cool, because that's a company that understands the customer is first. Now, I don't think the customer is always right. That's a different conversation.
No, they're often not. But
no. Let's talk about that really quick. I'm going to give you my opinion about that. The customer is always right, because that was an old thing from 70s, 80s that came out. That was a big thing when I was a kid. The customer is always right. Here's my opinion on this, and you can tell me yours. My opinion is that if you have a big, giant corporation where you're selling widgets, low margin, you're Amazon. Okay, you're a big, giant corporation with millions of customers. You're selling millions of widgets. You're selling lots of product. Then at a customer service level, yes, whatever the customer says is right. And then you empower your customer service staff to help them out or give refunds or whatever. And I remember, because I worked for a large software company and I was on the tech support phone call on the tech support team. This is before they subbed it out to Indians a long time ago when I was a kid. And that was the same thing. It doesn't matter if they're insane. It doesn't matter if they're stupid. It doesn't matter if they're not saying making sense. They're right. You need to make them feel bet as good as you can with and do everything in your power. So I actually agree with that. Where I think where you jettison that is if you have more of the type of business that you and I talk about, a smaller company, much smaller number of customers or clients. So, which is the model I tend to teach, is you have a small number of very high paying customers, especially if you're a coach or a consultant. And because I had 45 as a consultant, I had 45 accounts at one point. I blew my brains out.
That's insane.
I knocked that down to 5 and I made way more money, worked less hours, was way better.
Well,
So
and
you
you're
have
providing them, you're also providing them a much better value and a much better service.
Exactly. It's a win across the board. So if you have a business like that, which is a smaller type company, and I consider my companies, all my companies, small companies.
Mine too.
And I like them that way. I want them very profitable and amazing small, but I want to keep them small. Then no, if you have a client who says, because I've had this experience, I want you to return my phone calls within 10 minutes, 24/7, including weekends. No. And for me to say, well, the customer's always right, I better no, he's not right. I'm not doing that. That's not the way I work. And even in my online company for both Sovereign CEO, Alpha 2, but both those, if I get a psycho customer, and I've told our staff this, say goodbye, don't respond to his emails, get him off of our mailing list, block his IP address, we're done. I don't care. He's not right just because the customer's always right. He's insane, he's an asshole or whatever, and he's gone. So to smaller companies, you can say, the beauty of small business, you can say, this is the way we do business. We're not dealing with anyone else. And you purposely jettison customers because they're wrong. However, in a big corporation, I think that's a good concept to teach. That's my opinion.
I think that it's not a great concept to teach. I think that we've really moved away from that in the last 40 years because people have become significantly more entitled. So
have they? Really? I haven't noticed.
It's a tiny bitsy. But what I really struggle with is the idea that clients are right because they're paying you money.
No.
I don't fire many. It has to be pretty egregious.
I do.
But I've absolutely fired clients.
Fuck yeah.
Your money is not worth it to me. If your attitude is bad, if you're argumentative, if you expect immediacy from me, it's never going to happen. And what I'll do is I'll just give you your money back and say, okay, bye now.
Right.
I don't
refund their money, get the fuck out.
Yep. I have no time for that.
Right.
You don't own me or own my time because you paid me for a service.
Correct.
We have contractual boundaries and I set those for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Even if you have to refund their money, which I've done.
Mm-hmm.
Refund their money and they're gone. I will never work with you ever again. And no one on my staff will ever work with you ever again. And if you try to change your name and change your email address, we'll find you because we have those guys. No, you're gone. Nope.
Yep. And in my cases, it's been bigger business. There have been a couple bigger businesses, a couple small scale businesses that I've just absolutely noped out of. Here's your money back. Never talk to me again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. Yeah. Consulting.
And usually
coaching.
That's just related to ownership ego. It's usually not their staff members. It's usually one of the ownership team with an ego problem.
I also wonder if a lot of that is because you're a woman. Because I know women,
probably
professional women run into that more than guys do. I've seen it.
We do. But we just keep rolling,
Yeah.
I can be a bitch. I can be the person you throw under the bus. I don't care. I'm here to build relationships, but that doesn't necessarily mean we need to be friends or that I need to be friends with your staff. I'm just here to make things work in the best way that we can for everyone involved. Mm-hmm. So we want the buy-in, we want the engagement, but our customers and our clients cannot rule our businesses. Right.
See, it's your business. So that your clients and your customers are in your business. It's your business. So if they're behaving in a way that you hate and or screws up your business, because I've had that too, less often, but I've had this where maybe you've had this where they treat me really well. I've had customers who treat me really well. They treat my staff like shit. They're assholes. I'm like, whoa, gone. No, because that's my business.
I've only had that happen once. But it was the same thing. This was a hell no. We noped out of there.
No.
I gave my staffers a bonus and said, if you run into this again, just to be really vocal with me about it. We're not.
Wow.
because I want their engagement. They trust me enough to say, hey, listen, this isn't working. Here's why. Here are some concrete examples. And I never want people to be fearful of whistleblowing.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a problem, if there's an issue, I would rather take you out to lunch or give you a bonus than keep a bad customer on the books and cause dissension with my teams.
So if there's a choice between a client and a staff member, a team member for you, you're going to choose a team member.
Usually. Yes, yeah. Usually. There are very rare exceptions.
Yes.
And you and I have never experienced together in the last 4 years, a staffer that's really let us down at all.
No.
We have strong overperformers on our team, and we have a demanding audience. So I think just, these people embedded in your business exemplifies why this works for us as a long-term proposition. Mm-hmm. It costs us a little bit more in the short term in some cases, but at the end of the day, we have people who are embedded with us who are very unlikely to go anywhere. And they care about us as individuals too, even though we're both pains in the ass. Yeah.
When I was younger, I never understood the concept of taking an owner taking a team member, siding with a team member over a customer. Because when I was younger, I'm like, well, wait, he's the customer. He's giving you money. And it was that level of simplistic thinking. I think a lot of people operate on that level.
Most people operate there. Most of the small business owners that I run into still operate with that mindset.
Yeah. And that is a micro level thinking, not a macro level thinking.
Exactly. You cannot scale on that.
Right, exactly. And you're right. There are exceptions. The exception would be if it's a pattern. This is my deal, not only with people I work with, but by my personal relationships. Is it a pattern of behavior? Mm-hmm. So if I have a team member where there's a pattern of behavior problems with customers, that's different. But it better be a pattern of behavior. If it's a one-time thing, some guy yells at somebody, no, you're out. So, but yes, there's been unusual scenarios, not in the last several years, it's been a long time, but where there was an issue, but it was a pattern of behavior. That to me, that's the big difference, not only in business, but in life. If there's a negative behavior, is it a pattern of behavior or are you having a bad day? Everyone gets to have a bad day. I never have bad days, but most normal people have bad days. All right, fine. But bad days are allowed. Exceptions are allowed. Mm-hmm. Mistakes
you and I've had that where I've called you and I've vented because a client has been a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Or an internal staffer, like a new team member that we brought on that I say, okay, I unfortunately have to put this puppy in their place because they're not understanding how things work. They're causing dissension. And we do have those moments where I have to be, a terrible bitchy commandant.
Mama bitch.
Yeah, pretty much. They call me the Ginger Ninja for a reason. Watch
Ginger
yourselves.
Ninja.
But I mean, that's the reality. There are some times where I have to come down like a ton of bricks and really set things straight, stop those patterns of behavior to find out if we can invest in that relationship going forward. But again, our internal relationships with our staff, our freelancers, our friends, our family are things that we have the right to curate. The same way we can curate our customers.
Because it's your life, it's your business.
It is. And if your employee's an asshole, you're not the only person who thinks he's an asshole. Get rid of him. It's toxic.
Right. Well, we mentioned that last time.
Exactly. Yeah. If someone's not pulling their weight, get the fuck rid of them. You don't need to be carrying someone else. And your staff absolutely doesn't need to be carrying their peers. Supporting each other, yes. Huge advocates of that and creating engagement. But carrying someone, no.
And if you are afraid to get rid of that person because, well, then I got to hire a new person and train a new person, I don't want to do all that. That means you're a shitty business owner. You're a shitty entrepreneur because you don't have a systems-based company.
Exactly. Systems need to run your business. That is what a business is, a collection of systems and automations.
Right.
That is it.
And most business owners do not have that. The reason they hang on to shitty team members or shitty employees or what have you is because they don't have systems in place to easily, or at least semi-easily, replace those people when needed. And that's a reality that you need in the business. The reality of business, you're going to have to fire people. It's just, you can't avoid that. Hopefully not a lot, but you're going to have to do it.
That's what's made me wealthy. Like I'm not too sad about it. Is that people don't know how to structure their businesses and create systems. So like, awesome. If you don't know how to do that, give me a call.
I would have made no money as a consultant if everyone who started a business knew how to do it right. So yeah, we're happy that people don't know how to run their companies.
Exactly. But here, we'll be humble for a second. There are things that each of us are not great at doing or hate doing.
I'm great at everything. What are you talking about?
I am too. I'm just magical and fabulous. But at the end of the day, I freaking hate doing bookkeeping. So my business partner
aware of this.
does that.
We're well aware.
I don't like cleaning my house. So we do hire people to do things that we don't want to do. But even in those tasks that we don't enjoy doing, we employ people with dignity and with a respect for what they're offering to the team. And we also systematize it so that if cleaning lady Moira doesn't work out, we can bring Nancy in next week because we have our checklist of expectations and how we want things done. So create those systems, folks. There doesn't need to be disruption in your business. Changing your labor force should not be scary if you've structured your business in a way that is conducive to moving forward, rolling with your changes.
And you also have to have the courage to hire someone in the first place, because that's a big part of our audience's issue. So maybe in the next podcast, you and I, if we can both remember this, should focus on that. Because I've done videos on this, I've done articles about this. One of the biggest reasons that people either never start a business or they start a business, but they keep it small forever, bad small, not good small, is because they don't want to hire anybody. Well, no one can do it except me. Well, what if they fuck it up? Well, what if this, what if that, what if this, what if that? It's all these what if 2% rule things. And so let's talk about that in the next podcast, because that's a lot of people listening or watching this podcast is they want to start a business or scale a business, but they are nervous or otherwise emotionally uncomfortable with bringing people in and having them check their email or do their social media or do their technical work or do their whatever the hell it is, whatever they're scared of having people do. Let's talk about that next time, because that's a really big problem.
Especially because that's something that we've both run up against in our own careers.
Sure.
There's always some sort of delegation that's going to make you uncomfortable, but let's do that next week. Let's talk about hiring slow and firing fast.
Yeah.
And enabling your workforce to succeed.
And getting over the emotional hump of doing that, because it's all emotions. I don't want to hire someone. What if this? It's all emotion. It's not, there's no logic. There's no facts. There's no data. It's just, yeah, let's talk about that. That's we could do 2 or 3 podcasts on that. My God, that's such a huge deal.
In fact, if people want to send in their questions to The Only Black Dragon or Sovereign CEO.
Let's do that. So theonlyBlackDragon@gmail.com. Put on there business badassery, put that in the title so we can route that email correctly, because we outsource our email. And so questions for me or Billy or both of us, and or topic suggestions. That'd be a really good idea. If you're watching this on all the video platforms, YouTube, what have you, then you can put that in the comments. Otherwise, if you're listening to this, theonlyBlackDragon@gmail.com. Very good idea, Billy.
Every now and again, we think we constantly think outside of the box, Caleb.
That's right.
But we want your feedback. We want to know what those specific questions are that you have, especially when it comes to hiring. What have been some of your biggest challenges? What are some of your biggest fears? And what are some problems that you anticipate?
Yes. Let us know. And by the way,
add them to the comments, send it to the Gmail. Let us know what you want to talk about, and we'll happily address it.
And before we let you go, depending on when you listen to this podcast, you will be listening to this within the time frame. If you want our help on setting up your own location-dependent business where you're making money literally within 90 days, 90daybiz, B-I-Z, builder.com. The deadline for that is November 7th, 2022, depending on when you listen to this. And that is something that I am involved in and Billy is intimately involved in. If you want our help to actually work with you, literally, it's not a video course. You can go to 90daybizbuilder.com and check that out. But that's where we actually work with you to build your own location dependent business. Even if, what if I don't know what I'm doing? What if I don't know how to start a business? What if I have no ideas? Even if you're in that category. So just be aware of that. Maybe we'll talk about it a little more next time too.
We will. It's a really fun program it's been giving us a lot of satisfaction.
We've loved it. It's been fantastic. It's awesome. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thank you, ma'am. It was awesome.
Thank you, sir. Talk to you next week and send those questions to the comments and to the Gmail.
Bye, guys.
Bye.